time for the return of Game of the Week. We had a very, very dicey game, me and Sebastian, being Arsenal fans. We had to travel to Old Trafford to play Manchester United. As it stands, Man City basically needs to win out and they win. They play Tottenham tomorrow, so it's basically getting really down to the wire. See, I brought Seeps on because he also watched the game. It wasn't that exciting of the game, but there's some things I want to talk about Arsenal in general. But first, Sebastian, what are your thoughts on the 1-0 victory? We pulled it out in a torrential downpour at the end, really.
That was kind of an interesting scene at the end. I mean, I don't know if you saw all the pictures of Old Trafford basically collapsing under the pressure of the rain with
Not a great look
holes.
for them, yeah.
No, not really. I was kind of laughed at Neville being obsessed with the new ownership having to upgrade the ground, but he may have actually had a point.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like it was a pretty straightforward 1-0 away win, which, I mean, 1-0 away win is never that straightforward. I didn't feel that United really threatened that seriously. I thought our defense was, which is our hallmark, was very solid. One thing I would say was it kind of felt like we got dragged into the sloppiness that United play with. And I would say we weren't super sharp with the ball, which was frustrating
sure.
at times. But I didn't. The anxiety started to pick up in the last like 10 minutes because I was like, Jesus, something horrible is going to happen. Like, full discretion, I have an app, Flash Score, and I have goal alerts on. And when matches are on Peacock, there's a significant delay, and sometimes I usually try to turn off the goal alerts for the specific match on Peacock so it doesn't ruin it for me. I forgot to for this match, and I was just waiting for like out the corner of my eye to see a flash of like goal before that actually happened on my screen. And I was like having panics about that, and I would get other like notifications, and I'd be like, "Oh Jesus, what was that?" But it'd be like goal scored in something else or whatever. And
So, yeah, go ahead.
we ultimately made it through, and my anxiety died pretty quickly, thankfully.
That you explained it perfectly. So for our listeners, I told Sebastian the night before, like, don't give me any spoilers because I'm going to go play a round of golf. I'm very excited about it. I got onto one of my favorite courses, and I'm trying to stay unspoiled and then come back and watch it on VOD. And basically within 5 minutes, I was already checking the score constantly. And basically at the end at like hole 15, I was like trying to stream it, and it was very butt clenchy for the last 10 or 15 minutes. And when you see the rain come down, you know, like that's the bane of Arsenal's existence. We don't play well in the rain. It's well documented. And so when it happened, I was like, oh my God, this is the perfect storm. And you mentioned we didn't play that well. Our passing wasn't that crisp. I think, and you can't say it doesn't happen because Mourinho from United has done this before, but I think that they overwatered the pitch to stop our passing game. It was apparently very soggy, and like it would help them that if they kick the ball way up, it just like dies on the floor versus us. Like our pass is not going the distance. It was tough for us to play. So I think there was a little bit of gamesmanship there. But overall, you're right. Like we didn't really get out of second gear, but it's a frustration I have with Arteta is that he gives this version of Manchester United too much respect. He did the same in the reverse fixture. Like he plays more compact. He doesn't let the guys like go out and like press the shit out of them. And he kind of sits back in this 4-4-2. And when it does, it lets them have the ball in like meaningless possession. But we don't get that like breathtaking, like, oh, Rice steals the ball, pressing, and then we have a quick go. It doesn't happen like that. And because of that, it doesn't seem like Arteta in these big games will never go for the 5-0 or the 6-0 that we as Arsenal fans crave, considering how many times it's happened to us. Do you agree? Did you like his approach to this? Like in both games, the previous Man U game and this game, he did not press all the way up. We played like a mid-low block almost. It was very different. It was like how we treated them like City when they're not really the City.
I think it might be familiarity with Ten Hag, showing him a little bit too much respect. Although he's a good manager, he should be shown respect. He might not be having a good season, but I think maybe it's that anxiety that he has. Just like this guy knows me pretty well, and I know him pretty well. We don't want to overplay our hand, and get caught out. I think ultimately the most important thing from that match was getting all 3 points and getting across the finish line, and I think that's what he prioritized in his approach. And yeah, it was kind of frustrating for our fan base, but I really like at the end of the day, who really cares? We won. Like the job was accomplished. Arsenal this year definitely hangs its hat on the defense, I would say. I mean, how many clean sheets away from home is that now? It's like 5 or 6. It's some ridiculous number, and that's a really difficult thing to achieve. I think it shows maturity as a squad. Also, I kind of think the 1-0 away at Old Trafford in a fixture we typically struggle in is more impressive than like a 3-1, just because it shows like steel. Like they have the
Yeah,
guts
it's a
to get
it's a
through it.
very tough win. Yes.
Yeah,
So I get that, and we are undefeated versus top six. We have contrary to Wenger's years where we would lambast the bad teams and always get spanked by the good teams. We are now in a situation where we kind of do both. We kill all the bad teams, shitty teams, and don't let them have a kick. And then versus the top six or the big six, rather, we haven't lost this year. So I mean, kudos to him. It's just when you see Crystal Palace score 4 on this version of Man United the week before, you're like, hey, there's hope of us returning the 6-0 or whatever. Like, oh, we can get them back because they're playing Casemiro at back. So like that's what I was hoping for. And then I was
um,
also very scared that it could have gone the other way and we could have opened up. So I get the 1-0. You want to say something?
just the Casemiro at center back. I just feel really, really bad for him. It was I as soon as we scored the goal, because it looked so ridiculous, I was like, he's not offside because Casemiro kept him on, isn't it? And then they
It was
showed the
bad.
replay, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty that's like AYSO level fuck up, where like he's just he was lollygagging to get back to set the line and just kept everybody onside because he doesn't know what he's doing. And I don't blame him. Like, I think it's ridiculous that he's being forced to play there. I don't think it's a very intelligent
Well,
managerial move, but I understand. Like, he's a trooper for doing it. You do have to commend him because he's looking terrible, and he's a much better player than he's being made to look.
so there's two parts of this. One is that yes, I remember seeing that play, and I think Neville said it on the broadcast. You could see Johnny Evans look over his shoulder and like shocked that the guy's played offside by Casemiro because he's so far back, and like he'd been trying to recover on the way back. So one, Casemiro is too slow, and I do think that his legs are gone to a certain extent. Even
A
in
little bit.
a perfect 4-3-3 with him sitting, or 4-2-3-1 with him sitting with someone else, I still think he would get exposed. But for Ten Hag to know that and play him there, it seemed like him kind of making a point that like, oh, there's no reason why you couldn't play Delo there or Wan-Bissaka there and then play a winger back as a wing back and do it that way. But he was insistent on playing Casemiro there with Evans, which is like asking for trouble. And it's kind of making a point saying like, look what I have to deal with. Like, this is what I have to play kind of vibes. That's what I kind of got from that. Um, about the game itself, Kai played really well. Saliba was magnificent.
Yeah.
For me, I've I've been singing Partey's praises, and I've been like hoping and praying for the Partey, Rice, Odegaard midfield. But I think if you'll remember this, I think there's a little bit of Lucas Torreira effect, where just by virtue of actually having a CDM, we're like we're like, oh my god, this is what a CDM looks like. Oh, it's great to have. But to me, he's lost the ball a lot more than he normally does. He's kind of slow, and he's not as press resistant as he used to be. So either it's a function of him just being old and injured like this, or he doesn't have the game time to get in shape when you start playing 5 or 10 games before that season ends. Maybe it's a combination of both, but I just think that we shouldn't get fooled by the Partey unleashing Rice, because any replacement level CDM at that level, I think could do that. And so I think we really should look towards that in the transfer window. Anything in like on the game itself, there's some things on Arsenal I want to mention really quickly, but anything on the game itself or Man U
I
for that
thought
matter.
for Man U, I thought Garnacho really stood out. He was
Yeah.
pretty phenomenal. I feel like was it Ben White? He was kind of beating
Torching, yeah. Yeah.
nonstop the entire match. He seemed like the only player who really presented a threat. Although once he got to like the box, he kind of flubbed every single chance he got. But he stood out for Man United. I feel like I don't know. a struggling side. I feel like they're kind of saving everything for the FA Cup, which is understandable. And that Palace match that you mentioned, just as an aside, it was fun to watch. I kind of got extremely sick and tired of the Crystal Palace jerk circle for like the week after, where it was like, oh, this side, Oliver Glasner. It's like you're fucking 12th. Like it's a very cool thing, but like,
It's the new manager bump,
oh, Michael
basically.
Olise, he's amazing. It's just like
Yeah.
he's really good. They're a fun side to watch, but we're giving a little bit too much media attention to a side that's bottom half of the table. Good story. Maybe they'll finish in Euro spots next year, built off this momentum. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just an asshole. I probably am, but it just was like I don't really understand why we're like
It's always
freaking out.
comical because Ten Hag is especially petulant when he loses, and so it's fun to see him do post match interviews when he
That's
just
what I
gets
wanted
completely
more so.
obliterated. Yeah.
And we got
Um,
way more Crystal Palace coverage than we got of Ten Hag being like shitting on Ten Hag coverage, which I don't
Basically,
know.
yeah.
I'm just a negative person, I guess. I want the chaos.
He's the reason I've said it before is he was very arrogant in the way he dealt with like from Ronaldo all the way to Sancho. You see Sancho popping off for Dortmund now. Like his he's has too heavy a hand for a coach who doesn't have that much clout, and or he's not like a Pep guard. Pep could get away with what he did. I don't think Ten Hag coming into Man U in the environment he did. That's so like player friendly, just like Chelsea to some degree could do what he did and not have any repercussions. So we'll see.
Um,
I'm very curious to see if they keep him.
I will give him a compliment. His outfit was very sharp. I really liked how he was
He's
dressed.
good at that. He's good at that for sure.
It
Yeah,
was a
gotta
tremendous,
give him kudos. Yeah.
what do they call it, a summer suit or a spring suit. It looked really nice. I was like, wow, Ten Hag's dressed to the nines. Way to go.
I had nothing really else for Man U. I'm very happy we won. It'll be very, very nerve wracking tomorrow when Tottenham plays. They do have something to play because Aston Villa tied today versus Liverpool.
Yeah.
They can theoretically get in the Champions League, so hopefully that ignites them to play a little bit better.
They play Crystal Palace in their last match, Aston Villa. So I retract everything I said. I hope Crystal Palace continue this beautiful story and shock.
Even if it means Tottenham getting fourth, which is crazy to me, but like I'm so sick of Aston Villa.
I really the questions. I don't know. Are we going to talk about Tottenham later, or the Tottenham City match, or should we do it now?
No, bring it up now. Just knock it out now.
The questions. I love Ange Postecoglou, so I'm probably biased. He managed Celtic and brought them back to glory. So it's a very strange position I find myself in as an Arsenal supporter who now loves the manager of Tottenham. But the questions he's been asked this week have been fucking very, very stupid. It's like, and a majority of your supporters probably don't want you to win that match tomorrow, or a proportion it was. And he's like,
yeah,
a proportion of our supporters don't want us to win. What proportion, mate? 50%, 40%, 60%? And the guy's like, a proportion. He's like, I don't know about that. I just know that when I show up, I want to win. And people are getting on him for being condescending. It's like, dude, if it was me, I would have probably ripped the reporter a new head and be like, you're a fucking moron. Like, I show up to win matches. I don't show up question. To like it's ridiculous. Like, and then they asked him like, when you show up, that was earlier this week, I think, that when you show up to work, is there kind of like there's not much to play for anymore? And he's like, what does that mean? Do I show up at like 12 with a coffee and a pastry? And just his mate, like, where he's just like, I don't know. I really think they're being very harsh on Ange, and I think it's because he dares to be different with his approach. And I don't know, it grosses me out. I kind of really want him to, I don't know, do well. Not better than us, but I don't want him to fail because I just like the guy and I feel like people are dicks to him.
I can extract myself from the Tottenham hate and say that objectively he has done more to influence his club than Ten Hag has done in Man U.
Agreed.
There's a strict like way they play, and they do it no matter what, no matter the opponent, and it's just now a matter of getting players to fit his style. Whereas Ten Hag, it seems like sometimes he wants to play really open, expansive football, and sometimes he's just kicking it up like Brentford. And it's like so tough to say like yeah, he might get a result here and there, but you don't know how Manu's going to play at all. And maybe it's due to the players, but I just think Ange is a better coach. And very stupid questions. I agree. That's stuff that you banter about with like people at the pub, I suppose,
Yeah.
in England, like in London. You wouldn't actually bring that to a coach, but that's just me. So I just wanted to say one thing on Arsenal. I mean, we're almost done here. So Arsenal points record, if we get to 89, I saw this thing that it would have won the league for 7 out of Fergie's 13 Premier League
Yeah.
titles. That's pretty crazy. And then basically, overall, like, we have somehow made it to the finish line. Saka's on his last legs. He's probably, I would be surprised if he, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays versus Everton, but he's definitely like feeling the wear and tear of a season. Declan has kind of slowed down in the second half, and it made me start to think about, we apparently got $93 million from Champions League for just getting the quarter final, which effectively pays for Declan Rice. But then also there's some increases in like kit sponsorships, and the feeling around Arsenal's transfer policy, from what I've seen, is that they will have money to spend, similar to what they had last year. And then that, excluding what all the players leaving, I made a list like, let's say you keep Partey, you keep Jorginho, you keep Zinchenko, and you keep Jesus, you still figure that Ramsdale will leave, Nketiah will probably leave, Tierney will leave, Lokonga will probably go on a loan or leave, one of ESR or Vieira will leave, and then you have Cedric, Elneny, Okonkwo leaving on free transfers, basically to wherever they want to go. And so what I thought is, if we can raise 50 to 70 mil from those players, Ramsdale, Nketiah, Tierney, Lokonga, one of ES Servier, which I think is very conservative, all things considered, 50 mil for those type of players. And then we have our 100 mil that we would have been able to spend from EPL and 100 mil from Champions League. We could, in theory, buy like three quality, super quality players, or like 4 squad players. And what I think we've talked about a lot, but a left-sided CM 6 or 8, a striker and a fullback, and basically a backup goalkeeper. If we can get that on free, I feel like you look at our depth chart, Martinelli, Trossard on the left, Havertz plus a striker and up the middle, Saka plus Jesus on the right, Declan, Partey, Jorginho, Ode, one of ESR or Vieira, and then one of our new CMs would basically take the center mid positions. White, Tomiyasu, Saliba, White, Gabriel, Kiwior, Zinchenko, Timber, and then the new signing on the left side. So like, that's a fairly solid squad where I would feel okay playing any of those players for like pretty much any opponent, even like a Bayern. Like, you say, like Zinchenko is not defensively sound, you don't want to play him in that situation. If we needed to, we could play him there, and it wouldn't be the end of the world. He's done it before, So like, that's a squad I think can compete on 3 or 4 fronts. What do you think? Do you think I was out of place in any of my assessments of who's leaving, how much we can get, and how much we can spend?
I'd have to look into transfer values. I mean, it sounds accurate to me just off of hearing it. I do think the Timber addition will be very nice. I think we've kind of missed him. I could do without Zinchenko, but I understand he'll probably be there. I kind of just don't like him. He gives me way too much anxiety when I'm watching him play.
Yeah.
It's not my style of player, but I understand his value. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would have to look more into the transfer values. I haven't even really thought about that yet.
So, let me just ask you one question then. Basically everything seems straightforward, but it seems like there's 2 players competing for one spot behind Martin, and that's Vieira or ESR. And which one you'd rather keep?
Probably ESR, wouldn't you? I think he has higher upside. Although it's been upside for years and years now.
So the one thing I'll say about Vieira is that I'll say these 2 things about the players. Vieira, he is very productive. When he actually plays, he gets goals and assists, which in a way is something Arsenal has always lacked. And then for the negative on ESR is, I know why he hasn't played. I have a strong suspicion why he didn't play that much after he got that start. I think, was it Luton? But like, he played in the West Ham or Aston Villa game. He came on as a sub, and basically he lost track of his runner, and the guy scored. And that's basically been a consistent trend for ESR. Is no matter how good he is offensively, he always loses his guy. and his defensive duty on the other side. And I think that's why Arteta doesn't trust him, not so much because he's injured anymore. So I love ESR. I would love to see him play like well and stuff, but considering how much Martin like leads the press, that position is obviously important for that. You have to make the right decision every time, and then tracking back is a big thing. So I feel like we would get more for ESR, so I would be okay keeping Vieira and then selling ESR. But I think either is fine for me. Like I'm excited to see more about Vieira. He's just always hurt, so maybe that's a knock on him.
I would really want, I have started to think we still need to address the striker concern, I feel like. So I feel like whatever gets us to that. But I've landed off of just it can only be Osimhen. That I also would be okay with Isak. I've really grown to enjoy watching Isak. I think he's developed into a tremendous striker.
Not Gyökeres or Sesko. There's been talk about
they're
those
okay.
two.
They're not my style of player, really. Sesko's pretty good, but I think Isak is much more dynamic, and I feel like he's the type of player who can go on a run and kind of produce something out of nothing, which I think is a pretty vital skill to have. And he's fast as fucking hell. It's quite impressive to me.
Havertz doesn't punish slow CBs. He punishes weak CBs with his like aerial skill, but he's so reluctant and hesitant to take players on up and down the pitch. So it's tough.
He's also been tremendous. Like, I don't mean to discount Kai. Like, his creation is elite.
So that's the thing. Like, I think we out of the like priority, it's definitely for me center mid's the highest, and then a left-sided defender, and then striker. Because I do think that we can play with a false nine. Martinelli's not going to have a poor season as he had this year. Trossard's playing really well, and then I think a healthy Saka and Jesus on the wings could cobble together. We have the second most goals this year. Like it's not that big of a problem, but it will make everything easier. It'll make those games where nothing seems like it's working, and you need someone to make magic.
That's why I like Isak.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, apparently Arteta likes him a lot. But yeah, those are just like some transfer things I was thinking about. You have anything else on this?
Well, this isn't really transfer related. We were talking about Saka and his fitness. I feel like a big priority needs to be him getting a little bit stronger in the off season. I feel like he gets knocked down quite easily, and he's always he's very Luka-esque. Not in the complaining, but he's always like holding something or kind of looking a little bit weathered. Even early in the season, I feel like he gives me a lot of anxiety, and it's more selfish for me. I just wish he would get a little bit stronger so his fitness issues didn't suffer as much.
I look at Saka and I don't see like a strength issue because the way he muscles off people that are stronger than him, true. He got a fantastic base. I just think he played like every single game for us. He needs to play like 3 to 5 less games. And
that might be fair.
And then that's one thing. And then 2, I do agree that either he needs to learn how to fall better or he needs to like learn how to sell it better because he does get chopped down a lot. And a lot of times he doesn't get the yellow. He needs to be much better about getting his counterparts on yellow so they can't put the foot in anymore. Maybe that's a referee thing. We can complain about that all the time. But yeah, just the City, like when I looked at City and how well they're playing now, the biggest thing I see is that all their players are rested. Like none of like KDB is managed perfectly. Like he's a 32-year-old or 33-year-old. If he doesn't need to play the game, he doesn't play the game. And if he needs to play the game and you might need him later, he only plays the second half for like 30 minutes and it's enough time. And that's kind of what we need from Martin and just their center backs, Stones, Ake, Diaz, Akanji, Jasko, Walker. They all alternate and they're all fresh when they play. I mean, Saliba and Gabriel basically played every game. So there's some like, that's the difference between us and them, I think. So just adding here and there, I think no longer squad players, but adding 1 or 2 or 3 quality players will make the difference.
Yeah, depth that Arteta trusts, I suppose.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a long time, and but part of me is like he needs to learn how to add that to his and account for that in the season because he seems so reluctant to do it. I don't think some of the players we have are that bad that he had to play Saka and Havertz 50 games this year or something. I don't know. Since we spoke last, La Liga has been wrapped up. Leverkusen are still unbeaten. Real Madrid wrapped up the La Liga title, and then they also advanced to play Dortmund in the Champions League final. Any comments on the end of the soccer season? We'll do a wrap up at the end, but any predictions or anything like that?
I hate Dortmund, and I want Real Madrid to beat them 7 or 8-0 in the Champions League final.
Really, I wouldn't have expected that. Just because
No,
they beat Atletico?
That's not even it. I have an issue with undeserving teams being in elite championship matches in any sport. Dortmund just lost 4-0 to Mainz,
Yeah,
I believe, which knocked Union Berlin into the relegation zone, which really fucking infuriated me as somebody who watched the match. They just lollygagged and bullshitted through the whole match. I don't enjoy watching Dortmund. I respect their fans; they're a great fan base.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Real Madrid is the evil that I know. I don't want to have to deal with this like plucky underdog Dortmund. Oh wow, what a great, tremendous story! Like it would be disastrous to me. Let Real Madrid add to it. Whatever, fuck it. I don't care.
The only hesitation I had was that if they win the double before Mbappe even comes, like, is it a KD joining the war situation? What does it really do?
Well, like, everybody who joins Real Madrid is a KD joining the Warriors situation.
Yeah, that could be true, but also Dortmund, they don't get in the Champions League unless they win, right?
No, I think because Bundesliga has 5 Champions League spots next year, I believe that they're basically automatically in.
Oh,
I have to double check.
I thought the only reason they were fighting so hard is because it's the only way they would get into Champions League. But
at a certain point, that was true, and then like the coefficient stuff came out, and Syria
England
and
lost.
Syria and Bundesliga got 5 spots, so it took some pressure off of them. But I don't know. This is another thing. Like I shouldn't be rooting for Real Madrid ever, but because of the shit season Bayern had, that would have been a nightmare. I was ready to not even watch the Champions League final if it was Bayern versus Dortmund, because I just would have felt like it was a fraudulent situation.
Not even the best 2 teams in Germany.
Yeah, like to me, the Europa would have been the more interesting one, which is absurd to say, but at least like Real Madrid made it, and we can all like go off about how great Ancelotti is and he's the GOAT, which I do. I respect him immensely, and it would be fine.
I think it was very clear why Xabi Alonso did not take Liverpool, given Liverpool's squad versus 2026's Real Madrid squad. It's like not even comparable. You're like gonna coach 6 or 7 talismans of the generation versus Darwin Núñez hitting the post 3 times every game. It'd be just so rough for him. Like
probably. And then if he took Liverpool and then left after like a year or whatever, he would have been like the most hated man of all time.
I think he comes back, but it's just he is on a different track now, and he needs to do it when he's doing them a favor, not the other way around. I think it's a little different. Okay, so we are praying for Tottenham tomorrow. With every fiber of my being, I'll be a Tottenham Spuds fan, and I just really hope it goes well for us. But
that's why I had my whole praising Ange Postecoglou screed.
Yeah, there you go. We've done our due diligence. I don't know.
I've said if Tottenham win tomorrow, I'm going to probably get his face tattooed, which I feel like I may regret.
You're like Paul Merson. Yeah.
I said it before him. Then I heard him say that. He said he was going to get their logo tatted, I believe. I said Big Ange because I would never get their fucking logo tatted.
That's not a bad tattoo, honestly.
I can say, like, at least with Big Ange, he restored my club Celtic to their glory. And then, I can pass it off like that. He'll become one of my favorite people in the history of planet Earth if he pulls it off tomorrow, honestly.
Yeah. I'm so hopeful because they never win there, but the way he plays, it's just going to be, it could be an evisceration, and it could be like a 4 or 5 nil type situation, but please Tottenham.
I was praying today that Villa didn't win, just so there would be maximum motivation, you know?
Yeah, same, honestly. But yeah, we have 1 week left, and despite anything that happens, we did not bottle it. We fought till the end, and we gave it our best, and that's all we can really ask for as Arsenal fans. Liverpool bowed out, so it's just us and City, and it figures to be like this for the next couple of years, and hopefully we can start off with a bang. All right, that includes the soccer segment. Anything else, Steve? Anything we miss?
Nope, just go Spurs tomorrow, I suppose.
Go Spurs, go.
Yeah.
Hello,
All right.
friends. Oh, sorry, Ash. Didn't mean to
No, no.
cut you
I was
off
gonna,
Whoa.
I
there.
was gonna, I was gonna set you up with a nice. Here's Bry guy coming in hot with some AI action. But please go ahead, Brian. I'm
Whoa,
sorry.
whoa, whoa, whoa. No, I mean, I just wanted to talk about um, OpenAI recently, a little AI update recently this morning, had a conference to announce their new models. And I think just to think about, first, I'll talk about the model in a second, which I think, is interesting, definitely has a lot of work to do, but is, uh, you know, some good technological progress there. But also on like a meta level, I think it's very interesting what OpenAI has become in terms of initially it was like this research group. They had AIs playing Dota. It was always about
Yeah,
discovery,
I remember
trying
that.
to kind of push the AI um, field forward. But now that they've taken hold with ChatGPT, Dolly, Sora, with now that they've taken kind of like the number one spot, at least the number one hype spot in terms of AI potential, um, the way that they're kind of structuring their announcements are very hype driven. Like in the past, it used to just be like, oh, here's like this research paper about this thing we've discovered. But now that they are, yeah, basically a purely for profit company. For example, this particular press conference today, Sam Altman has been hyping it up for basically a week, basically saying, oh, there's some new announcements coming. There's some new announcements coming. Just be ready for them. It feels like magic. He keeps on saying that. It feels like magic. And then it's interesting because tomorrow is Google's Google I/O, which is like their kind of checkpoint for announcements as well. So OpenAI has started to become kind of this cutthroat, trying to get ahead of the game. It's very likely that, of course, Google will be making some of their own AI announcements tomorrow, and they very intentionally put their press conference a day before to say, "Oh, we are ahead. First of all, we are ahead of the game, and whatever you guys can present, this is probably just going to be better anyway." So it just kind of it's just, I think, an interesting transition to from this kind of cool research company that's pushing the field forward to now shifting the perspective of they are just a corporation. They're going to become whatever they're trying to be, the next Google, the next Apple, and just kind of seeing that happen in real time in such a uh, fast period of time and such a big shift, I just think is interesting. So I'll stop there before we start about the models. Do
So
you guys have any thoughts on that?
I do have one question, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, when we spoke about it last, Sam Altman had been ousted from OpenAI. He'd be reinstated after Microsoft basically swooped him up in a second. And so you're saying at that time wasn't OpenAI a nonprofit, and is from since that time have they created a for profit like business entity? I think
Well,
there's
I think that's just kind of like where they're I think technically they're not fully for profit, but
okay.
there's lots of things you could read about how like kind of they're shifting towards that. A lot of their policies they've kind of just stripped into being a for-profit company, and more or less, I think we could functionally say that they
What
are
does Ilya
for-profit.
think about all
Yeah.
this?
Ilya, I
Yeah,
think he was part of the press conference today, dude.
and
Um,
he's down for all of it.
I think so. Whatever, dude. The gravy train's rolling in. What is there? What do you better step in
Change of
line
heart, a quick
before
change of heart.
better
Yeah.
step in line before Sam Altman beheads you in front of all of Silicon Valley, as if that fucking matters. But yeah, I just think that's kind of that's the first part. I mean, I'll just jump right into the second. Sebastian, unless you had something to say about that
well, just
particular.
I didn't watch the full press conference. I saw what you sent to the chat.
Yeah,
Feels like it went from being something that was pretty cool to now being something extremely lame, and they need to figure it out. Because the messaging today, I was just like, man, this is like one of the lamest fucking things I've ever seen in my life.
yeah.
Like,
Let me explain first. Let me explain
yeah,
first before we kind of jump into that. But I definitely agree. I think the technological aspect of it is pretty cool. So just to give a quick background, Chat GPT, their amazing language model that swept everybody by storm. It's kind of been the same for a really long time. Today they announced the model, basically ChatGPT 4.0, which incorporates multimodal capabilities, so vision and audio. Um, in terms of the technology itself, I think it is pretty impressive. You can like upload a picture to it and say, I was just testing, because I do design stuff. I was just testing some of the stuff. I put a screen that I designed in and like, how can you improve this? The recommendations are pretty general, but the fact that it can really discern what you're putting in and give some pretty good, you know, top level recommendations, I think is very impressive. And then also in terms of like audio, the main thing I think is just that it's very low latency, right? When you think about stuff like Siri, it's like Siri, give me directions to somewhere. There's always like a 4-second lag before doing anything. And now there's just very low lag. But just to speak to what you were saying, Sebastian, and kind of what I was speaking to at first as well, I think it's really interesting because instead of just being like this, again, purely technological advancement that's very exciting, they're starting to incorporate things like, voice, right? So they have to have what type of intonation this type of voice has, and the way it speaks, what kind of character it has, which does go a little bit into like that dystopian, like Her vibe, like the movie.
You kept saying her like in chat, Brian.
yeah, like her, like the movie. But where I do think that they are nailing the technology, I do think that, to Sebastian's point, they are not doing a very great job. I mean, this is like a classic Silicon Valley thing, right?
Yeah.
Like not nailing like the just more normal human aspect.
Exactly.
Like, don't get me wrong, I agree with you 100%. The technology, very, very impressive. It's more like the corporatization and the messaging where they're pushing it out. It's just like, dude, like this, you're making something very cool seem very, very uncool, and this has to shift immediately.
I mean, that's kind of the issue. It may never shift, right? Like
no, it probably won't.
Yeah, right. And so that's kind of where I just think seeing kind of like the dawn of this new, like, let's say, technology era, I think is just super interesting because they're trying, again, like I said, they're trying to take hold as this next big entity, and you realize it's not just about the tech anymore. It's about everything else, and that's kind of where a lot of the challenge of
corporal bullshit.
Yeah, corporal bullshit. How do you resonate with people? How do you resonate with people while still, driving your profit and bottom line? And I think that's kind of, where we're going to see OpenAI start to lose a lot of its kind of charm, if it hasn't already. So
yeah, that's really well put, Brian. I see what you mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of like Google. Google used to be like, now everyone spits after they say it.
yeah. I mean, they used to be their phrase was like, "Don't be evil," and like I think they've just conveniently taken that out of like their slogans, just because it's like, oh, like when it comes to making money, you have to be kind of evil at points, and people are going to start whistleblowing and that kind of shit, and like once you grow past a certain point, kind of the rot will start to begin inside, regardless of what you want anyway. So it's just coming to terms with that, I think.
The potential for evil with OpenAI is like absurdly great, though. Like, there's gonna be like whistleblowers in like 15 years revealing like they collaborated with like the most evil government shit in the entire fucking history of the planet, and it's just gonna be like, damn, like that part I hadn't thought about, but yeah, that's not gonna be great. Like, there's definitely extremely high potential for something of that nature.
I would put a significant amount of money that Sam Altman is at a congressional hearing within 5 years, 3 years.
Yeah,
just
that
like
probably sounds
defending something
like next year, this year,
within a year,
defending something,
election
like,
or
trying
some
to explain
shit,
it to politicians
honestly.
and stuff because it's not regulated and they need to find a way to regulate it and stuff. Like, yeah, it'll probably be born out of like we laugh about it, but like fake Trump calls and fake Trump shit coming up this year. Like it's gonna come from that and impersonations of voices. But to be clear, Brian, just summarize everything. The keynote advancement for this version of ChatGPT is that it can take visual media and or voices and and the tone in the voice.
Yeah, which is hard, to actually create like more human tones, which I think, again, it's a great technological feat, but then I don't think I want that, really. I'm kind of a you
don't want an AI friend, Brian?
I don't, dude. I want to be like, fucking bring this shit up and do this fucking shit for me. I don't want jokes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't want it to be like, oh,
You're looking
you
down today,
shitter.
Bri.
Yeah, I'm gonna fuck you. Dude. I don't give a fuck. You know, this isn't your wheelhouse. You know what I mean? Just do the shit for me, dude. I don't give a fuck.
There's
So
a moral dilemma there that is quite dark and ugly that I'm not going to speak to, but I feel
what?
like
AI waifus?
no, the way that the way you want to treat AI.
No,
Would it
I
be
mean,
considered a sentient being at a certain level?
no, yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like
No,
that's the dark. No, I feel like that legitimately is like a dark issue that will sometimes surface at some point because, like, at a certain point when it becomes so understanding, like, if you treat it like absolute shit and are just like commanding
yeah,
it and
sure.
not treating it with respect, like, I wonder what like the moral. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like there is a certain dilemma that will pop up with how we'll discuss it in our society.
Yeah, sure. These things are moving
I tend to
fast.
agree with you more so. Like when Siri fucks up, and I'm just like, man, you stupid motherfucker or whatever, and then
Yeah.
it just is like I won't respond to that, and I'm just like, man, like fuck off. Like I wasn't at, like
Chatbots that don't get it are very frustrating, and I've
yeah.
definitely raged at a chatbot for not fucking getting it right. Like, listen to what I'm saying, you know? Like, it's just, I see that happening, and you're right, it seems like that. It'd be like how we treat our androids in Star Wars. Like, are we going to treat it like R2D2, just sit in the corner and do your shit, you know, type thing? Or is it going to be a C3PO, or are you trying to make this like living, breathing thing that you can interact with for God knows what reason? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of brings me to a point. Like, I'm wondering because when you get involved, or like you're just looking at forums, not just Reddit, but like some kind of more technical and actually good forums, um, whether or not we might be bottlenecking a little bit in terms of the initial kind of amazement of AI was so crazy, but now it seems like while advancements are coming, that it is. I could be totally wrong, but this is just kind of like some of the discourse that it is slowing down. Whereas like the first 90% is really amazing, but then similar to self-driving cars, like that last 10% to actually making it truly practical and really affecting society is the hardest part. You know, like with self-driving cars, the kind of peak hype of it was it's been a while now, you know, like 5 6 7 years um years ago. And then even though you have like full Tesla self-driving and stuff like that, it hasn't made the impact that people have thought it was, just because of, you know, a gajillion different reasons.
Well,
And
there's real life factors that you just can't code for everything, man. Like,
yeah. And people are wondering if that's happening with like kind of the more knowledge-based work. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, your fucking job is going to be taken away. But then, you know, when you start using these for a while, it's like, no, if you're like you're working with it for a while, it does have a lot of it does think very shallowly. You know, obviously, depending on how well you're able to prompt it, it can like get deeper, but that's really about the person. And so a lot of people are wondering if we're starting to bottleneck. We could be totally wrong. Again, OpenAI could just release something next week that's just fucking crazy. But um, that does seem to be, given kind of like the corporatization of everything, people are wondering if that's going to be happening soon. So
no, I didn't. It wasn't even my radar, Brian. So I'm glad you brought it up. Get educated about this stuff. But
yeah,
anything else? You think?
no, that's mostly it. Little quick updates. Keep everybody woke, dog.
Yeah.
Because keep everybody woke, dude. Because
Thank you, Brian. Thank
this
you.
one's close to the AI waifus. We're one step closer to AI waifus, and
Yeah,
It was
you're
pretty
there.
like
we all need to be careful, dude.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's all I'm saying.
Good looking out, brother. All right, it's time for our NBA playoff roundtable. We've been basically meeting every week to talk about the updates and playoffs. We're now round two, basically 4 games in for pretty much every series. A lot of things have changed since Minnesota's ascendancy last time, so we're just going to talk about it. We'll go series by series. Anyone, before we start, open floor, anyone want to say anything about the playoffs since we spoke about it last?
I mean, we were just saying this a little bit off air, but I do think that the injury issue is affecting the playoffs in a large way. That it's not killing my enjoyment, but a lot of games are kind of like, oh, like how is this team going to handle being injured? Um, let's just use Joel for example. Uh, pretty hobbled series. Jimmy didn't really even play. Giannis didn't even really play. So while I think a lot of the games are great and the series are great, I think that's just like a huge factor that, and it's like this every year, but I think that I've been kind of brought back to reality because I always forget every year that it does end up being a bit
It
of an injury fest.
I
it
don't
does happen every year, but don't you think it's a little bit worse this year? Like a lot of the
know.
big players are hobbled.
I don't really
Giannis,
think so.
Embiid, Luca, Jalen. Um, who else?
Should be Butler.
Jimmy Butler didn't play. Um, Jared
OG.
Allen, OG,
Kawhi.
Knicks, Kawhi. Like I see a lot of the
You
key
can't count
players.
Kawhi
Well, you can.
because it's every single year. You can't really count Kawhi in
Yeah,
this
I guess the guys
conversation.
that are
I mean, Luca
injured are
too.
guys. I guess the guys that are
Jamal,
injured are people who are pretty injured every year. Giannis has started to be pretty injured pretty frequently. Embiid,
Embiid, yeah.
Kawhi, yeah, these are guys that are injured every year. So that I think that is a fair point.
Porzingis, yeah, too. So yeah, these are a lot of them are usual suspects, but it just sucks. Yeah, I don't know why it's expected me more this year.
I agree with some aspects of it. Like in the East, I feel like it's pretty prevalent, but at the same time, I don't necessarily feel very bad for the Knicks. I feel bad for the players, but like I named Tibbs the Ascoy, the All Steve's Coach of the Year, but that comes with a cost. Like we don't embrace stupidity over at the All Seebs committee, and I feel like Tibbs basically was being quite stupid with the way he was playing his players. I mean, yeah, Josh Hart playing 48 minutes in 2 or 3 games straight is cute, and it's like, oh wow, like what an Iron Man. It has costs. Like the Knicks yesterday looked so fucking tired. It was one of the
Yeah,
more like
Pretty gassed.
startling things I've ever seen. And I don't know that they're going to be recovered by tomorrow night. They thankfully have an extra day off between 5 and 6. I believe 6 is on Friday. So like they may recover in time to win a game in Indiana, but it's just like you have NBA players on your roster, like use them. Why we have to go with like 6 players or 7 players? And it gets to a thing where I felt like last year with the Nuggets, Michael Malone had like outrageous anxiety, and that's why he only played like 7 or 8 players as the playoffs narrowed. I feel like Tibbs has that anxiety nonstop from round one, and I feel like it's not healthy because it's like I get that you trust these guys more, but like you have to learn to trust other people. Like I don't think resting Josh Hart for like 4 extra minutes is going to make or break you. Like you have players
I
you can
mean, it doesn't
trust.
help that OG is also injured.
That
So
he's
Yeah,
he's
super
probably just
injury
like,
prone though.
Mitch is
but
out
he's
as
probably just
well.
like, fuck, man, like, it's like
Yeah,
He's
but see,
played
that's
seven.
also
need to go reliable, need to go Josh Hart, all
that's
reliable,
another
dude.
aspect of stupidity on Tibbs' part though, because OG is, as much as I like him, he's one of the more injury prone players in the entire league. Like if you're going to play him 40 plus minutes nonstop for a month, he's going to break down. And you know how important he is to your team's success. So like I know you don't want to play Precious as much, but like you might want to rotate that a little bit more.
For sure.
I don't think OG's going to be back this series, and I don't know if he's back this playoffs because they just said he's like started doing work in the pool, which is like you're pretty
Oh my
significantly
god.
away if you're only working in a pool. And he's pretty slow to come back from injury to begin with. So like, there's the injury point is applicable to a lot of teams. I don't really give that excuse to the Knicks because it's totally self-inflicted.
If you're gonna play your players, if you want to play your players 40 plus minutes in the playoffs, it happens sometimes. But then you also have to set the entire season up for that so that they're peaking at the right time. You can't play
Yeah,
all these players 40 plus minutes during the regular season and then also play in the playoffs and expect nothing to happen. So he does deserve some blame for that. But it's typical Tibbs. They wouldn't be the Knicks if he was like playing 12 guys or something, 11 guys. It wouldn't feel the same way. Yeah. Anything else generally about playoffs so far? We can go matchup by matchup too. But anything else generally? That point is well taken, Brian. I felt it too. But I also see what Steve's saying. A lot of it a lot of it is we don't recognize from previous years how many people were injured in runs, and a lot of it is coaches being dumb. So
Yeah, I mean, the saying goes is that there's always an asterisk, right? Like people always say that, like
And
there's never a true no asterisk here. So I don't. I'm not like I'm not calling it devastating, but I've noticed it just a little bit more this year as
I
well.
think a lot of it is the media playing it up a lot of times too, though. Like I'd say every single year, people are not 100% when you get to this point of the
Yeah,
season.
sure.
It feels like this year the media is making a point of like emphasizing hobbled. Like feel like I've heard hobbled to a like sickening amount over the last month, and it's like if he's nicked up a little bit, that's fine. But can we stop saying hobbled all the time, or like when somebody has like a slight limp for like 5 minutes, can we not act like he's never going to walk again? Like these guys are tough professional athletes. Like most of the time they're going to play through it. I feel like they're giving fans anxiety, and I feel like it dictates narratives for like months at a time because I feel like I've heard hobbled Luca
It's
a
the
thousand
media's
times.
job.
It's just if Luca was balling out, I feel like we wouldn't hear it. Yeah, you know? And
He's kind of balling out still. I mean, he's not
he's
like
last
shooting
year we
mega
were pretty
balling
rough,
out.
man. Last year we were
Yeah,
pretty rough.
fair enough.
But I
he's
I
playing
will.
great. It's just he's shooting poorly.
It
Yeah,
seemed
yeah.
like there's not this many what basically best players on the team that are injured. So we mentioned three, like Embiid, Giannis, and Kawhi. These are 1A guys who are basically Giannis didn't play the entire thing. Kawhi didn't play the entire thing. Embiid played severely hobbled, like you said. Lucas severely, like it seems like he's pretty hobbled and stuff. So that's the difference for me is that a lot of these, from a lot of playoff teams have injuries, but the primo guys, it seems they're missing out, which kind of ruins the enjoyment from a spectator perspective. But the games are so good, and I'm enjoying the playoffs in general. Let's just go through the matchups really quickly, and let's start with one that's changed the most, which is Nuggets T Wolves. One of our favorite podcasters was calling for a sweep after game 2, and now it's 2-2. Two really solid performances by Denver. What do you guys have to say about this series? What changed?
I'm not very surprised, to be honest. I'm pretty sure, like, I was entertaining that maybe they would lose, but that whatever, that there was they were gonna have to overcome challenges. But I'm pretty sure I said that it's pretty possible that they just win the next two, and
I think we
and
all
even
had
in
them in
a
6. To be clear, we all had them in 6, I believe, right?
yeah.
I've what?
What?
Did you have Nuggets in 6?
I
I
was
thought
in
you. Yeah,
six. I just
yeah, okay.
didn't think it would happen this
Like
way.
this, yeah, basically.
I think that the extra day between 2 and 3 was probably one of the biggest factors in the entire playoffs so far. Because after game 2, I did kind of feel like, oh shit, the Nuggets are in a shitload of trouble, and they might actually get swept. Because Jamal just looked really bad. But I feel like
Yeah.
that extra day. Actually, it was like they had 3 days off between 2 and 3. So I feel like Jamal had a lot of time to recover. I don't know. These are probably like the two teams I've watched the most over the last 2 years, even more so than our favorite team, the Lakers. Like I prioritize Nuggets and Wolves more because I just like watching them more than our Lakers team, to be honest. So it's been interesting because I hadn't ever really seen the Nuggets show that lack of fight that they showed in game 2. It was pretty startling to me. You could tell, like, from the team down to the fan base, they got punched in the mouth, and the fans didn't know how to react. But you just hear the quotes after game 3, and you realize, like, these guys really do, like, have the hearts of champions. There's a maturity and spirit that I don't think a lot of the team, I don't know that any team in the NBA right now has. There's like a camaraderie between all of them. It's a very unique team. I've been very impressed with 3 and 4. I actually 4 was more impressive than 3, and it's pretty magnificent to watch. Honestly, 3 was interesting because I thought the Wolves were going to win, and then I talked to my friend who is a Minnesota fan, he was like, "Man, I have so much anxiety about this game," and I was like, "Why? Like, you guys have dominated them." And then kind of realized like that Minnesota sports anxiety, where so many bad things have happened to
Oh
your city
man,
in sports that you never think anything good is going to happen, starts creeping in. And I kind of feel like you could feel that in the crowd, because as soon as the Nuggets got like a 7 point lead, the crowd just felt really tight, and then the Wolves as a whole felt really tight. Four, I feel like they handled it more maturely, but they just weren't good enough. Well, Ant was phenomenal. Everybody else, including Mr. Carl Anthony Towns, were kind of shit, you know?
I
that's what
mostly
I. Go
go
ahead,
ahead,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Brian. Go,
I was going to say I mostly give credit to the Nuggets. I was a little bit shocked, nah, not shocked, but people saying it would sweep, even though that was very dominant first two games. If the Nuggets were to be as transcendent of an offense, led by genius Jokic, um, I was expecting them to at least, put up a fight, which they have. I think they have, Jokic has kind of figured out some aspects of how they're playing him that is allowing for them to come back. And I just think that, people are making shots this time, MPJ having terrible game, AG having kind of a terrible game. That I would give to credit to the T Wolves, just like their defensive presence, their size. But given um, with Jokic leading, I think they're able to just kind of like find their spots a little bit better, like pull Rudy out a little bit more and just allow for a kind of more fluid offense. I do wonder whether it is kind of like Rudy effect. I don't know, maybe because he's there. The Wolves feel more relaxed or something on defense. I don't know. He's the defensive player of the year. I'm kind of just pulling straws for such a stark change in the defense once he came back. But I'm not writing off the Wolves quite yet, but I would say they're on the back foot this time. Denver's obviously one of those teams Laker fans know best. You can never give them any momentum at all. And, even though the Wolves took two at home from Denver, the fact that Denver just came right back and took two in Minnesota, I think is pretty scary for the Wolves, as they're
spooky.
going to have to go right back to Denver. And it's like, unless it's one of those series that the away team always wins, somebody's going to have to drop the ball at some point. Or else, or else Minnesota just wins if only away games win. But Denver's going to eventually bring it back together at home, I feel.
So for me, it was just a matter of, like you said, it could be the Rudy effect or something. I just saw like Nuggets didn't make that many shots in game 1 and 2, and then in game 3, Jamal popped off. In game 4, you had the AG game where he popped off, and then combine that with a cat implosion, which we all expected at least one or two during this series. Like, so that's kind of the story of it. And I think Jokic, he generally has a tendency to coast and only like really go hard when he needs to. And I think he needed to. And so he's starting to go really hard. That game 4 was amazing. I had like such fun watching him like tear up their defense and like make all these crazy shots and stuff. And
In passes.
I think in passes and stuff. Yeah. So he's kind of, like you said, Brian, I think he's figured out something. And also he's realized that he needs to elevate his game in a way he never had to do versus the Lakers, and really doesn't do at all during the regular season. He's I think there was one game where he shot like 4 times during the regular season. It's a completely different Jokic. And so I'm happy that it's a series. I do think Nuggets will go on to win it now, because Ant's been unconscious and it's 2-2. And I don't know if he can kind of keep it up for the rest of the series. 44 points on like, what is it, like 70% shooting or like 65% shooting, something ridiculous like that. So I was happy for a couple of selfish reasons. First is that if the Nuggets had gotten swept, and they basically swept us, it would not have been good for the Lakers. But this is the Nuggets that I expected to see for the rest of the playoffs, that kind of like stood up and didn't go down easily. For those, when they were down 0-2, it was like, oh my God, are the Nuggets just done? Do they want to go to Cancun early and stuff? And clearly they don't. They want to fight and they want to defend their championship. And then 2 was that when they were down 0-2 and then Jokic was getting the MVP, there was a lot of talk about like their run last year and Jokic's run in general. I didn't like it at all. I felt like it wasn't fair. Like, you all talk about injuries, you only can beat the teams who are in front of you, and that's what they did. And I don't think Jokic's MVPs are soft. I don't think the Nuggets championship was soft last year either. So to see them validate that and actually like say, okay, it's not a flash in the pan type thing. We are actually defending champs. Was nice for me. That's kind of what I'm getting from that series right now. Any comments?
Just like I feel like a major factor was Game 2 was officiated differently than every other game in the series. Felt like they just let Minnesota kind of foul the shit out of them, and I think Minnesota expected that to be the norm. And then Game 3 and 4 were 3 was a little bit tight. I feel like 4 was a normal officiated game, but I feel like 2 was excessively loose, and that's why you saw like the frustration boil over with the Nuggets just being like, fuck this, which was a bad look for a defending champion, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Tony Brothers kind of brought, I don't know, he kind of broke the Wolves spirit with how he called Game 3, I feel like. It was just kind of like, it's a problem the NBA is going to have to fix in the offseason where there's too much variance from crew to crew.
Very good. Very good point. Yes.
Yeah, but I feel like that problem has been like exasperated in this series because a loose whistle favors the Wolves, especially like their best on-ball defender, Jaden McDaniels, who has a tendency to commit very dumb fouls. And tight whistle benefits.
Cat too, dude.
Cat isn't their best on-ball defender, so
but he has a lot of dumb fouls.
Some of his fouls so stupid.
It's part of his bag, honestly. Like the one at half court yesterday on Jokic, where it was just like, bro, what are you doing?
I was like, dude, what are you doing?
And then the offensive foul on Michael Porter Jr., where he thinks he got an and one, and it's like, no, bro, you used your off arm to push Mike into the stanchion, and now you're celebrating an and one, and everybody else is jogging back on defense. Like, what the fuck's going through your head? He's a very frustrating player. I've grown to like him, and this series has made me like him less, unfortunately, which I don't like to say, but yeah, it's frustrating. And then another factor I feel like is the Nuggets adjustment of having Aaron Gordon handle the ball a lot more when he's bringing it up court is fucking up the Wolves defense. Because they've been their classic strategy, put Rudy on AG so he can float, help with Jokic when Cat's on Jokic. But I feel like because Aaron Gordon's bringing the ball up, their whole rotations are kind of thrown off a bit. It's not like original opinion. It's something I've noticed and I've heard a lot of other people say too. But I feel like those are two pretty major factors.
I'm very excited to see how this matchup plays out. I think I still will stick with. I think Denver figures something out. I don't think I need to adjust anything. I think it does go 6. You guys think it goes 7?
I never know.
This one's hard. This one's hard.
I would probably say 7. It's hard for me to believe Ant will let the Wolves lose 4 games in a row.
I'm going to go 7. I'm going to go 7.
At the same time, I'll go 7, but I could easily see it going 6. I'll caveat it. Like, I could see what Ant does not being enough, ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think is he's putting 44. If he puts up another 45 piece and Cat has the game he does and Nasri has the game he does, doesn't matter. Like, will they even be in it at that point?
I mean, who knows, dude? The Wolves could win the next 2. Unlikely.
I'm not saying it's possible, but in that script,
could happen.
I see that script being more likely than Cat going off for 45 or something or like that. I don't know. We'll see. I'm very excited to see. So anything else we'll move to the game that's about to finish right now, Boston-Cleveland.
No, I think
Cleveland's up. Cleveland is down 2-1. Boston restole home court.
I don't have much to say about this one, honestly.
I don't either.
All it is for me really is, I'll get I call him Mr. Unreliable. Donovan Mitchell, when he's good, he's pretty damn good.
But then he missed today. Like he
missed today. I'm saying for like the last game that they won. When he's good, he's really damn good, but he's missing today. Exactly, Mr. Unreliable. He's missing the game where it looked like they finally might get some momentum. For me, even with Donovan, I expected the Celtics to basically sweep. I'm
Yeah.
of this image that they're supposed to be way better than everybody in the East, at least. And every loss that they have, it just always seems to me like they're kind of underperforming even. But I mean, they're still knocking people out in 5, which is me being critical. So we'll see how the rest of the series goes. Let's see if Mr. Unreliable can come back. But I mean, I don't think there's, from my perspective, much to talk about except for the inevitability of when the Celtics are going to beat the Cavs.
Seems.
Well, this game that's currently going on as we're doing this has gotten. It's the typical Celtics shit, like
Yeah.
unnecessarily close, dicey games where they're clearly the better team, but they just lack like game
Discipline.
IQ
They
and
lack of discipline.
game IQ and like appropriate effort. One of Brian's favorite phrases. They struggle with a lack of appropriate effort, not in excess of appropriate effort.
I think there'll be a lot more talk about this game if Cleveland manages to pull out a win here in Game 4. If not, it's going to be over in 5. It'll be over in 5, and the Celtics will be going through.
We'll see.
Especially
like
if Donovan doesn't play, right?
Yeah, I think if he doesn't play Game 5 or Game 6 or Game 5, yeah, they'll probably lose in Boston. But just like being under 500 at home in the playoffs over like 3 seasons.
Weird.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Yeah,
like,
that's weird.
This is why they need Ime, because they need people to ask those exact questions when they come back into the locker room. Like, that's what had him having the Celtics clicking in a way that I don't think Joe has really had it. They just seem kind of like a soulless machine team. Yeah.
Ime's Celtics were much scarier to me. I never felt the same way about Joe's Celtics at all. And it's because he has that fire and that, anger.
If anything, all of these games have shown me is that even though this is supposed to be Boston's year, there's that statistic of point differential, that people who have this point differential, it's basically champions only. I don't think they could, at least the way they're playing right now. Maybe they have, again, that other notch. But, if you're kind of struggling with the Cavs and kind of shooting the shit with the Heat, even though they were destroying the Heat, you would think that without Jimmy, you would think that there would be like a dominant sweep. Just these dropped games and even keeping it close, no Donovan and it's a close game. I just don't think that you'll be able to take out the top dogs of the West. Or maybe even the Knicks, dude. Maybe you can't even take out the Knicks.
Perfect segue.
Perfect segue. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Pacers, Knicks, 2-2. Knicks are decimated with injuries, and Pacers are starting to feel themselves. Halliburton's playing well. For the first 4 or 5 games I watched of Halliburton, it didn't seem like he was adjusting that well to a slower playoff grind, but he's starting to pick it up, Brian. He's your player. What do you see in Halliburton right now?
Yeah, I mean, where the offense isn't zipping as much, so he's not racking up hella assists, he's kind of leaning into what we saw a lot earlier in the year, which was ability to score, ability to push the pace, ability to score, take some pretty Steph-like threes, to be honest. And so that, I think, is what I saw earlier in the year to be kind of the promise of Tyrese's superstardom, is that when the rest of the team isn't able to, run the break, or other people are just kind of struggling to score, he can do these types of things. And for those wins, he had 35 points in one. I think another one wasn't as impressive, but 20 something points. And he still, even though it's not those crazy, the Pacers are scoring 140 and he has 18 assists, he's still getting 8 assists, 6 boards. So still making an impact there. I still do see the Knicks winning this series. Overall, I think they are a tougher team, kind of more physical. I do chalk it up to them kind of just having that away game fatigue. But I think once they come back to the Garden and those games start rolling again, that the Knicks should be taking it. Brunson had some pretty horrible games, and he was bound to cool off eventually because he was just on a total ridiculous heater. But I think if he can even just get back to, playing well and the team playing a little bit more cohesively, I still have the Knicks winning this series. And I'd put it at 6, honestly. I think the Pacers just put in a good homestand, but I do think that the Knicks are a better team ultimately. So I do think they'll win the next 2.
Seeps, who's winning?
Knicks tape.
I think the Pacers are winning in 6.
I'm the OG. I'm the OG Knicks tape guy, dude.
Yeah, I completely disagree.
For
I
sure.
have to be honest. Yeah, I think the Knicks are really beat up. I don't know. I'm curious about tomorrow's game. It's weird. It starts at like 8 p.m. local time, which I don't really understand. But I kind of feel like that doesn't really matter. Maybe they wanted to give the Knicks extra time off, but it's kind of late for a New York start time. Maybe the crowd is a little more subdued, although that's kind of a funny thought with how crazy they've been. But yeah, I just really think the Knicks are really beat up, and the Pacers have much more depth. They can run the Knicks out the gym, which they did last game. Like last game, their pace was pretty fucking high, and once the Pacers get rolling like that against the Knicks team, who are kind of on their last fumes, I think it becomes like an avalanche, and it's pretty hard for the Knicks to slow down. I think Neesmith on Brunson has been a really nice adjustment. I don't know why they had Nemhard on Brunson to begin the series. McConnell's putting in great work, also slowing Brunson down. And like, just even last game, like Hartenstein picked up like a shoulder injury. He's walking around like holding on to it. They're really running out of bodies, and I'm not sure that the Knicks can recover, unfortunately, because they're a fun story. But I do think the Pacers are going to be one of those teams where we look at it and we're like, how the fuck that team make the conference finals? But yeah, I kind of do see that happening.
It happens.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
it's a matter
East
of
was
can
bad.
Brunson. Yeah, that's the first thing. The East is really
Yeah.
bad, and second is basically for these next 2 or 3 games, can Brunson elevate and pop off for a 40 or 45 piece every single game to lead them?
And he
That's
could.
He could, but it's becoming for me less and less likely because he himself is hobbled too, right? He got some people the
He has a
calf
foot injury.
So like if he was completely healthy, I would probably still lean Knicks. Now that he's also hurt too, it's going to be a tough ask. And I think they'll probably win one more and it goes 7 and Pacers win in 7. And it's sad for me to say because I was really pulling for this Knicks team, but just
Same.
too many injuries, man. Too many injuries. Brian, you want a final word on that one, or we can move on?
No, I mean, Knicks tape, go Knicks.
Fair enough. Enough said.
Don't really got much.
Okay. Last matchup is the one we're going to see tonight. Mavericks Thunder. So Mavericks leading 2-1. Kyrie's playing really well. PJ Washington's popping off. Luka, while hobbled, is still getting the stats necessary for his team to win. And Thunder are looking a little bit green, even though the games are competitive. So that's kind of my read on it right here. I do think Thunder still win.
Oh, really?
I do. I think Thunder in 7. I think I like Mark Daigneault as a coach. I think he's a better coach. He'll figure out, maybe get him win a game
right now.
Really? Right? Why
I think he's a better coach, but I don't think he's experienced. I think he's made some rookie mistakes.
So, like, what mistakes in particular?
His use of challenges is strange. His commitment to Giddey is a little bit strange.
I was gonna say they pulled Giddey off. That was one of my next questions. Is this the end of Giddey in OKC? Because he's not.
They're playing him a little bit too much. I think is he starting tonight? Because if he's starting tonight, it shows.
I don't think he started the last game, but I can check.
I think he did start.
He did. I think he did, man.
Yeah, he started every game of the series. I'm pretty sure.
But
they yanked him. But then in the
he's been playing less minutes, but he's still starting. Yeah, he's still starting.
It's not a good look for him.
I just think Jalen Williams, not the good Jalen Williams, the bad one. There's an overcommitment to him, and I feel like.
So Giddey had 13 minutes. That's right.
I just like to see my Viet brother succeed.
But he did start,
dude.
Yeah,
I wouldn't really want to claim him if I were you. But
we don't got
I
anybody
think
else. Man.
He's one of those bigs who takes charges and doesn't contest shots, which is dishonorable to me.
He is a little. He does play a bit
Grant Williams-ish.
A little clunky.
That's a good comp.
Yeah. He plays very clunky, and it's kind of like, like nice jumper.
I liked
but
him.
That didn't look pretty.
Yeah, he's taking a little bit too many shots. I feel like. To me, the big issue with the Thunder is the good Jalen. Like they're both good, but you know what I mean when I say like
like the potential star Jalen,
potential superstar Jalen Williams.
Yeah,
he's looking a little bit green. The last 2 games that they've lost, especially like he had a really bad stretch in Game 3. Maybe he recovers because he's an excellent player. Chet also seems to be feeling the playoff pressure, not necessarily in his defense, but his shot is completely broken, it feels like. I think they're a better team on paper. I just think they don't have the chops. That's my thing.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think my prediction earlier before the series was that essentially experience would trump kind of the young hype team, and even though Luka isn't playing super top notch, Kyrie is playing quite well. A lot of these games have become quite grindy, pretty possession based. The game's pretty slow, and I think that Kyrie is really finding his spots there. And yeah, even though Luka is missing a lot of threes and missing a lot of shots, the pressure that he puts on the defense, I think, is pretty evident. And where Luka is not succeeding, obviously PJ Washington is killing it. He's having a crazy series of
he's like borderline star.
Yeah, like hitting a lot of open threes and like being really aggressive towards the basket. I mean, you even had it was really funny because I was watching game 2 with my cousin, and he's just like, dude, I fucking hate Hardaway Jr. And I'm like, why? He's just like, because he's just like a chucker, because he's just a chucker. And then like Hardaway had a good game that game, you know. And like if you're gonna have those in game 2, and if you're gonna have those games from even like Tim Hardaway, then I think that eventually Luka will get back to playing well, even though he is hobbled. I think that to your point, Sebastian, it might be a little bit overstated, and he is a very tough player. He is kind of like that level of superstar that can still have really great games even though he's injured. So I still have the Mavs taking this in 6. I don't think it's going to go to 7.
I agree. Quickly on the Luka hobbled thing. Also, last game, it was a play where he like fell down and he looked like he like severely hurt his ankle. Then he like popped up the ball, ended up in his hands, and he switched to 3 like right after, and it like had me dying because it was like that's such a Luka play, like looking like you're gonna be out for like a month, and then like the ball finds you, and you're like,
that's the European soccer in him, dude.
His game is slow too. His game is slow too. His game is slow too. So I think he's one of those players that can, slow it down and actually have that situation where he's still playing very well, even though like his ankle might be hurting. He just has to, be a little bit slower on the pick and roll or something like that. So not too worried.
Everything you guys said makes sense, and I want to believe it because I want to see Luka versus Jokic next round. Like that, the friendship, the brothers, that'd be a great Western Conference Finals matchup. It's just that they've got like an absurd PJ Washington series, and Kyrie's been playing super well. I feel like he's due for an off game, and then Luka is hobbled. So even though I want Dallas to win, I feel that OKC will win deep in my heart, and I don't know. Like basically, Shea I think has another level to go, and like you said, Jalen Williams hasn't been playing well. Chet hasn't really been playing well. Maybe they figure it out, but I can see what you guys are saying 100%.
I don't think Shea's getting the calls he got in the regular season that made him such a problem to stop. And
could be true. Yeah,
I think we had our bad Kyrie game. He had like 9 points.
He was good that game. I thought he was objectively good.
He was phenomenal, but I feel like if we're talking like what a bad Kyrie game is, it's that because I don't think he's ever not going to try.
He was D'ing up and dishing the rock and getting steals and blocks and stuff. You're like, dude, what the hell?
He was sick. Because I feel like that's the floor, though. Like, I don't think Kyrie's going to have a worse game because I think he's going to contribute offensively. And if the floor is like still pretty impactful, like I just feel like this is the Kyrie we're getting in the playoffs.
Secondary to Ant's emergence, the reaffirmation of Kyrie has been one of the big things about this playoffs.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been dank. So I think we'll talk about it again next week when we're probably through some of these series. But I think we hit everything important. Anything else, guys?
That's all.
Hubie Brown is the GOAT.
Yeah, Hubie's so sick, dude.
Yeah, Hubie Brown, basically.
And we need him on every single game.
I told my cousin he was like, how old is he? Pushing 90, isn't he?
Yeah, he is 90.
I told
he was born on my birthday, but 68 years before me.
Yeah, I told my cousin. I told my cousin he was pushing 90. I didn't even know he was 90. And then my cousin was like, "Yeah, wasn't Marv like incoherent and he's like 20 years younger and he had to retire?" I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
movie's crazy, dude.
No,
good for
Huey
him.
is the GOAT, and he's 90, and he's by far the best color commentator. Like, not even close. None of the other ones are even close to as good as him.
Shout out Hubie Brown.
Shout out Hubie Brown. Bool or bust time. Top 5 song of the week. Bool or bust. Anyone want to go first?
I'll go.
Sure,
I only have a Bool, and this is to shout out the haters. I watched Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh,
It was dude. It was dank. It was
you
dank.
didn't tell me that
I enjoyed it, dude.
amongst all the Neanderthals, there is a model-esque looking woman who just stands out. Brian, that was the craziest
Okay.
thing. Like, she's looking like a Victoria's Secret model.
For this movie, do you want like the reason why she's there?
Yeah, sure. I'm not gonna watch it, Brian. Fuck it up.
Do you care, Sebastian?
No, I'm probably not going to watch it. No
I
offense.
mean, long story short, it's like many generations after the main monkey Caesar has died, and now there's like kind of like a hidden human faction, and then like so there's like 3 factions. There's like this hidden human faction. There is kind of like the evil monkeys that have twisted Caesar's original message, and then there is kind of monkeys that are just like living normally in nature and living happily in nature.
Oh, God, happy monkeys.
Yes. Intelligent monkeys, though. But then essentially what happens is the evil faction kind of tries to take over the good ape faction, and then one of the good ape faction guys meets one of the girls from the hidden human faction to take down the evil monkey faction. As I'm saying out loud, it sounds kind of stupid, but
it sounds pretty bad.
long story short, it was a good movie, and it was visually pleasing. I enjoyed the movie. I
feel
think
like you're a stan.
I mean, as a Planet of the Apes fan, I can say now I did like it. Not a stan. I wouldn't say I'm a stan, but good movie. So that's my Bool. And that's pretty much it. So shout out the haters. It was a good movie.
All right. I can go next. I have 2 Bools. It was a good week, coming off the illness from last week. So first Bool is what you see behind me, the steel case gesture.
The chair?
Nice. A vision of comfort. It's like night and day. It's like everything is perfect. You can adjust everything. Well worth the money. And I bought it used, or it was new condition, but been previously bought by like someone and just in their warehouse, and got a good deal on it. So I'm very happy about it. It's like night and day from my last share. So highly recommend. And then second Bool would be, out of every course I've played in Southern Orange County and a little bit of San Diego and a little bit of like San Bernardino County, by far the best value, the best maintained course, and the best views are San Clemente Municipal. It's like a very affordable course. It's just the only problem is that it's very tough to get it's a public course, so you have to like 10 days out, you have to reserve it if you're lucky. It's very tough to get foursomes out, but I went by myself yesterday, played with 3 older gentlemen. Just like, I think harkens back to when I first mentioned San Clemente here, and it was the first time I went, and they were just like vets who lived in San Clemente area, and then one of them was very nice towards me, bought me a hot dog at the turn. It's a similar thing, yeah. Just very nice, always willing to help you. This guy gave me like a ball marker and stuff. So just really chill people and a beautiful course, ocean views and stuff. So San Clemente Municipal is my Bool. You should come out, Brian. Yeah.
My turn?
Yeah, all you soups.
So I got 4 really quick Bools. I'll just run through them. Continuing
what
the
a
theme
week for Sebastian.
Yeah, wow.
They're just basic shit, though. I want to continue this relegation promotion Bool situation. Really happy for St. Pauli and Holstein Kiel getting promoted from Bundesliga 2 to Bundesliga. St. Pauli have not been there in 12 years, and Holstein Kiel have never been there in their history. So pretty fun to see those pitch invasions over the last week. It's a good scene. There's a bus side to that with Luton and Burnley being relegated from the Premier League, but we'll focus on the positive side of things. Then, Vasily Lomachenko returned with a pretty dominant performance against George Kambosos, and it was just nice to see like a vintage Lomachenko beatdown. Basically, I mean, Kambosos has dipped in form since he beat Teofimo Lopez in probably what was like the night of his career a few years ago, but it's nice to see like a Lomachenko that reminds you he's still one of the best to ever do it, honestly.
Question, Seeps. Are you going to watch this Usyk Fury fight? Isn't
Of
it like
course.
the big?
It's a huge fight, yeah.
It's the
Of
big
course,
one, right?
dude. That's a massive fight.
Yeah.
John Fury, Tyson's dad, made a fucking ass of himself
He
once
headbutted
again.
someone, right?
Getting
Fuck
kind
that
of
guy,
sick of
man.
John Fury, man.
I've been sick of him from the moment I heard him
pretty
open his
sick
fat,
of this
disgusting
guy,
mouth.
man.
Yeah, fuck that guy. I don't want to. The entire family, I don't like. I think they're all bad. That's where I'll leave. I'll be PG about it. I think they're all bad.
I think they're all bad.
Yeah, bad man.
Then we'll do the third Bool is this Netflix series, Risque Business. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like
I have heard that.
two Korean dudes who go around the world and like experience cultures that are quite different to Korea, I suppose. And I haven't watched the first two seasons, but this one is them in like Netherlands and Germany going to like nudist places and sex colonies, and it's extremely funny to watch how they like interpret it and deal with it. And they're just like not really that down. And I don't think the German people realize they're kind of being dicks when they speak to each other in Korean. And it's just kind of funny. Like I kind of am more along the lines of what their view on things. I think it's a little bit excessive, some of the things they go to, but I just really find it very funny. And the last but most important Bool is Celtic once again winning in the Old Firm Derby over the weekend, putting those Huns back in their place. We get one more point on Wednesday, and we'll have locked up. I want to say it's the 11th title in 12 years. And it's probably. I woke up at 4 for it. You know, I do wake up for the big ones at 4 in the morning. Felt like shit at like 2 p.m. that day, and pretty much was ready to go to bed, but it was well worth it. The reaction from Rangers pundits after the match, always a great time. You know, former Rangers player Kenny Miller was on the call. Rangers had a guy slide in with one of the most reckless studs up tackles I've ever seen towards the end of the first half. Got a straight red, and Kenny Miller just was screaming and bitching about it for the entire 45 second half minutes, and then post match, which resulted on him being on a panel on Sky Sports and everybody laughing in his face, including another Rangers player saying that would have been a red card in 1970, because he kept saying, "Oh, this is today's game," and it just made me laugh. Nothing brings me more joy than owning the lesser team of Glasgow. Nothing brings me more joy. Sending them, I love Ruin. They're not my cup of tea, as my grandfather would have said, and it's a great time just owning them. So that's the biggest Bool and the most important Bool, and yeah, probably the most important Bool so far of the entire podcast.
Wearing the jersey, representing, I can respect it for sure. Okay, let's move to top 5. It was Brian's this week.
Yeah, I could explain.
Yeah,
it was like top 5 travel necessities, and just like I think everybody kind of has some things that they it's like unique to them that they take when they travel. So, you know, I wasn't just saying like your phone and your wallet and your keys or something like that. Just like anything that might be kind of unique to you. And I mean, I could go ahead and go first.
Lead off, Brian.
To kind of set the tone. But number 5 is pretty important for me, and I think a lot of people, it is just like noise canceling headphones. A lot of the time I don't even play music when I'm on a plane. I just have them on and just have everything to silent, so I can just pass the fuck out, basically, because everybody is quite loud and quite annoying. This is both international and domestic. Like, I'm grateful that I'm somebody that can fall asleep on a plane pretty quickly. Number 4, I have a Luffy trinket that I carry every time I travel with me, like Luffy from One Piece, and it's just something I got in Japan when I went in 2014, and it's just something I like to carry around with me, just because obviously it's kind of like that message of just traveling the world and the Grand Line and all of that stuff. And so I always like to carry this kind of Luffy
Quite
trinket with me.
poetic.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
Is it a necessity? No, I'm just fucking around.
For travel items, I guess. Number 3, I have kind of like my camera. Obviously,
Oh, that's a good one.
everybody knows I like to make dank videos with my camera. And so, I mean, that's kind of a thing too. I always bring it with me, but I don't always use it, which I think is kind of a problem because let's just say, for example, like bachelor parties or something, or like weddings, I bring it with the intent to, take videos. But a lot of the times, you're just doing stuff. It's sometimes hard to find a pocket of just filming things by yourself. And then when you're hanging out with people, this is probably an anxiety I need to get over, but I don't like to be that guy with like the camera, like, hey,
Well,
dude,
Let me
pose.
interrupt.
So
It's pretty hype when you had it. You had it in Hawaii, I believe, and I thought it was pretty sick.
I agree. It's hype when you bring it. Dude.
Yeah, I'm a
everyone's
fan.
down for like high quality pictures. I feel.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
pretty
Fair enough. Well, I'll keep that in mind for future kind of future outings. Number 2 is my Nintendo Switch. I just like to have games available to me at all times. Again, this is just almost like a safety thing nowadays. Like I've become so good at falling asleep on planes and just passing out and falling asleep to fucking Harry Potter or something like that. But I think the Nintendo Switch is a safety net for just in case I don't have that. Number 1 is I have like a Moleskine notebook that I just put like ideas and just travel stuff in, a little bit of a journaling thing that I take with me every time I travel. That for me is probably my most for me, it is probably the thing I want to remember the most, probably alongside with my camera. Just like what are some of the things that I was thinking when I was traveling, any ideas, maybe a sketch something or something like that. It's always nice to just look back on. And so I have that as my number 1. Honorable mentions, didn't really have much. I just had probably a shit ton of contacts because I don't really have glasses. I have glasses, but they're very old. And so just always got to make sure I have my contacts and shit. So, I mean, that's my list. Maybe it gives you guys kind of an idea of what I meant by the overall list.
I started to bring my Switch everywhere, and I thought about it, but I never end up using it. I've brought it to 4 or 5 trips, and I never used it once.
For sure.
So it would be on my list for sure. I think.
Yeah.
I can go next, Brian. Sebastian, if you'd like.
I was gonna go, but you can go. I'll go last.
You can go. That's fine.
All right, fine. All right. So,
I'm not stressed.
You said things unique, so I didn't include headphones, but I do think headphones would be on there. But
sure. Yeah.
So I'll just start with what I have. 5, I do think a neck pillow is pretty vital for the airplane. I'm one of those people. I can't really sleep without a neck pillow.
Sometimes it feels too
I feel
up in my shit, dude.
You have to. In my opinion, you have to get the window seat to have the neck pillow, so you can lean against. Yeah, that's the hype way to do it. But I heard Charles Barkley. It was a month or so ago. He said he was going to punch any man he saw with a neck pillow in the face. I was like, man, what the fuck, bro? What did I do to deserve this? I love Charles.
That's so funny, dude.
It made me reconsider things, but I do think it's quite important.
I'm an aisle seat guy, so maybe that'll never work for me, dude.
I was an aisle seat guy until I discovered I can sleep much better with the window seat.
That's fair.
I agree. If you're on a long haul flight, window is probably more prime for sleeping.
Yeah.
But on the short domestics, aisle all the way.
Yeah. 4, I have aloe vera. I think it's pretty beneficial. If you get sunburnt, it's very useful, but it also can be doubled as a lotion. I think aloe vera is quite important. 3, I have Dramamine, non-drowsy. I think that's also quite important if you've had a little bit too much to drink the night before. It kind of lets you get about the rest of your next day without feeling like you're gonna have stomach problems. To put
at
it
Sean's
politely.
wedding, I was crying for anybody that had Dramamine. I think Arjun had some.
I think I packed it and then lost it the first day, and it was one of the biggest frustrations I had. Honestly,
the day after the wedding, I was like, dude, I need something to
it was
make me more like a human, dude.
Yeah. That was a really bad one. Two kind of related, but electrolytes. Like I'll usually pack electrolytes in some form. Whether it be there's a product called like Extend that has BCAAs and electrolytes, but I'll also just be down for so common one that I'm blank. Liquid IV. Those are
Yeah, I
both
was
pretty
was
good.
about to say, are you like a liquid IV guy?
Yeah, I think it's pretty useful. And then number one is SPF 75 Neutrogena sports sunscreen for the face. I think it's like by far the best sunscreen at preventing you from getting badly burned on the face. I don't necessarily care much about getting burned or tanned anywhere else, but I do think protecting the face is quite important. And then honorable mentions, I have Voltaren, which is like ibuprofen in like cream form, so you can rub it like if you have a sore back or legs from too much walking or whatever. It's quite useful. And then
what's it called?
Voltaren.
Voltaren. I don't know what that is.
I don't know if it's ibuprofen. I feel like there's a
lidocaine.
No, that's different. It's more
it's like an anti-inflammatory, apparently.
Yeah, anti-inflammatory cream. And then this is a bad one, but I do think vapes or cigarettes are probably they might be number one. Honestly, I just didn't want to sound classless. But I will not. I will not travel without.
Be true to yourself, Steve.
Yeah.
Be true to yourself, dude.
To you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Mine is pretty basic in retrospect. I don't think I have anything unique. I think Switch should have been one, but I'll go. So I'll start with gotta have a pair of sunglasses. I feel like my
I think it's just to see what you value. You know what I mean? So even if it's basic, I think it's just interesting.
It is because I'm very sensitive to sunlight, and it ruins my time if I don't have sunglasses. Number 4, sweatpants. Think wherever you are, you could always like, even if you're in Cancun, the room can be cool sometimes, and you need something to chill in. You always need to bring like athletic pants, so like soccer pants or something like that. I think it's an essential. Number 3 is personal to me because when I want to drink or when I want to eat something a little off the rails, famotidine/Tums for stomach treatment when you're away, I think is important. For number 2, similar to Brian, noise canceling headphones. Like traveling without them, I feel so lost. Like I need to have something to like listen to content, music, etc., and not having them. I didn't have them on the way back from Tennessee, and I ended up buying some shitty pair for like $44, and it was just worthless.
That's the worst.
I had to have them. Yeah, it's so bad.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. And then lastly, this is kind of like, I don't know, it might be an anxiety thing. I don't really often use it when I'm away, but I like no matter where I go to travel, I always go pick one up before I go, just to have it for my own sense of like security. Is an inhaler for like asthma related stuff. Like even if I don't use it, it just gives me a lot of anxiety if I don't have it, because then you're far away and you can't have it. So those would be my essentials. And then I would say my honorable mentions for things that I always regret not bringing is one is a belt. Like
that's a good one.
Oh, my pants fit
here. A good one.
All of a sudden they don't fit over there, and then you're just holding your pants the entire time. And then shaver, like always for touch-ups and stuff. I try to do all my shaving before, so I don't like on a 3 or 4 day thing. But if it's longer than that, I have to bring it and stuff. So yeah, shaver. Those are my honorable mentions.
The belt is a good reminder. Also a tie, just like that kind of stuff, because I'm going to a Rom's wedding this weekend.
Okay, very nice.
And then the last wedding I went to in Hawaii, not Hawaii, Cancun, like the Mexico one. Cabo.
Right?
Yeah, I don't even fucking know where I'm going. I had forgotten a tie.
Wavy, bro.
No, I had forgotten a tie, and like I was kind of stressing about it, like, oh, dude, this is so busty. I'm gonna look so whack. But then you kind of also realize that unless you're like part of the wedding, nobody gives a shit about you.
Yeah,
you know, you're basically there. You're basically there just to like be chill and like don't cause any trouble. And then so like, you know, nobody noticed. Like nobody said shit about me.
I will say, like, I agree with you normally, but I went to an Indian wedding recently, and there was one gentleman, like probably a little bit younger than me. Everyone else is in like, you know, the saris and the suits
Sure.
and stuff and kurta pajamas. This guy was wearing like a black sweater with an aloe hat.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
gotta
A little
at
bit-
least be.
a little
like,
bit different,
and he looks,
man.
he started out like
It's
a,
gotta at least be, you know, cocktail attire, but I think that definition is pretty loose, right? Like
yeah,
you could be
but,
the Bool guy with no tie and whatever, like
yeah, but you
a
gotta
crazy
like, at
colored
least
suit,
try.
but it's gotta be something, you know. You
Yeah,
can't just be
yeah.
like cruising in like a sweater.
Your belt one is a very good one because I remember going back to Arjun's wedding, I forgot a belt because when I bought my suit, I didn't need it, and then somehow like over the course of that trip, the suit became looser. I guess like I lost water weight or whatever,
Mhm.
and my pants were just falling down the entire time at Arjun's wedding until
Did you
Jesse.
get suspenders or something?
No, Jesse gave me his belt off of his pants, and it was like one of the nicest saves somebody's done. So I was very grateful. I think I hope I gave him the belt back, but I may still have it honestly. But yeah, so belt. I think after that, every trip I've basically gone on, especially for weddings, I've brought a belt.
Probably wise, yeah. I'm straightforward, but I think if you don't have these things, then you definitely miss them. So it was
I agree.
a good exercise, Brian. Anything
Just a
else you want
reminder
to
for
say?
you guys, dude. A reminder for you guys.
Yeah, and a good prep for you for going to Ram's wedding this week. That was the real reason. Yeah,
Yeah, it should be chill. Should be chill. Should be chill. Yeah, I guess that's like a post Bool. Aram getting married. Shout out.
yeah.
Quick shout out on the pod.
Congrats to Aram June.
Yes.
Okay, song of the week.
So I could have gone a few directions, but I went with Duke Deuce's remix of Yuki Chiba's Team Tomodachi, which is like a pretty big
Oh, yeah.
Japanese
You said
rap
that to me.
song right now. Yeah, it's quite
Yeah,
hype.
you said that too.
It's a very like southern sound to it, and I had the chorus stuck in my head for like 3 or 4 days in a row. So I feel like I have to give that song some credit. Chimu Tomodachi. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I thought it would be a Drake or Kendrick song, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit too high key. I try
We've
to
run
go
its
something.
course.
We've
We've
run
run
its
its
course,
course.
fair.
Even
Okay,
though
fair.
there is some like kind of. Do you know about this, Steve? It's kind of like this late stage drama of this guy who like might
Ebony
have worked
Prince?
at the. Yeah. So it's still going
I've been
on, but
following
it does
it
seem
pretty
to be a lot of
closely.
smoke and mirrors. It does seem to be a lot of smoke and mirrors.
The Dennis
Unless
video
something
of-
came out today, because he said he was
No.
going to say something today.
Did you see the video of Dennis Graham with the young lady like being quite forceful with her at some party a few years ago?
No.
Kind of just seems like the Grahams may not be the most classy family. I'll just
Upstanding
leave it at that.
family. All right. So thanks for joining. Thanks for producing Brian. And as it stands, it doesn't look like OKC is doing
It's
so
early,
hot.
but yeah, they're
It's
down
early,
12.
but it's
It's early.
we will see. Okay. Thanks again for joining. See you guys next week. Looking forward to it. Peace.
チーム友達関西関東西東北南チーム友達チーム友達チーム友達チーム友達チーム友達チーム友達